So our lead this hour is from baseball. We'll get back to the hockey talk. Canada beat Team USA in overtime. Connor McDavid, the greatest player in hockey, with the game-winning kill shot as Canada wins the Four Nations tournament there, and the crowd goes wild, but not in Boston. So our lead this hour is from baseball. Some big news out of spring training, not involving the Dodgers and Cubs, and that new replay thing they're experimenting with in the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League. But if you have not heard yet, we learned that Major League Baseball and ESPN are Dunskies as partners, as business partners. Now, the reporting says that ESPN and Major League Baseball mutually agreed to opt out of their rights deal. Now, they're doing this 3 years early. And this is a relationship, depending how old you are. If you're like 35 years old or younger, your entire life, Major League Baseball has been on the Entertainment and Sports Network out of Bristol, Connecticut. So this goes back a minute, 35 years. Now, in a memo to team owners, the Weasley commissioner, Rob Manfred, said the league has not been pleased with the minimal coverage Major League Baseball receives on the Entertainment and Sports Network outside of live game coverage. So baseball is attempting to say, hey, we don't like your coverage, and so this is what we're doing. So let us discuss the question. We know there's a divorce taking place here, and baseball and the Entertainment and Sports Network are going their separate ways. Rob Manfred claiming he's upset because of the coverage. But what's really going on here, and who looks worse in all of this? So I have pink, artificial sweetener, and JetBlue. And we will combine all of these things together, and we will do a seance. We'll do a reading, a table reading seance. So first of all, to answer the question, who looks worse in this, the arrow is clearly pointing at the commissioner's office in Midtown Manhattan, Rob Manfred. And he's out there complaining about the minimal coverage, and he's saying, well, they cover over there. They cover the NFL and the NBA a lot more than they cover us. Now, while that is true, it is also irrelevant. It's spin, spin, spin. Rob Manfred's trying to position this as a good thing for Major League Baseball. It's damage control. Major League Baseball's marketing people have done a crap job at creating stars who are interesting. There are plenty of stars in Major League Baseball. They just don't carry over to sports talk radio, and they don't carry over to sports television because they're dull. All right, that's the ugly part that nobody wants to talk about. Right? We're saying the quiet part out loud. And so Aaron Judge is amazing for the Yankees, and Shohei Ohtani's outstanding for the Dodgers. They're both great stars. But there's nothing they do that is mildly interesting away from the field. Nothing, right? Like the other day there was a story, Ohtani ended up on TMZ because he couldn't parallel park. That's the kind of stuff that we're getting. Okay, that's not a lot of meat on the bone. It's not. And so that's part of the problem. Now, regardless of that, you think about the people over there in Bristol, Connecticut, and that network pretty much exists at this point for some kind of like woke propaganda and live sports. That's it. And yet, if you take a couple of steps back and you look across the Serengeti, what's really going on here is ESPN essentially has given Major League Baseball a metaphorical pink slip. You're fired. You're fired, right? Something they would never, ever consider. Could you imagine if any other broadcast network said, we want to get out of this NFL contract 3 years early, or we want to get out of this NBA contract 3 years early? No one would ever do that. That would be blasphemy. You couldn't possibly do it. So instead, they're doing it with baseball, and baseball's doing the walk of shame, and so they're trying to spin, spin, spin. There's nothing mutual about this. There's nothing. Because Major League Baseball is taking it in the shorts on this. ESPN was overpaying $550 million per year for baseball rights. And they actually Major League Baseball undercut that contract because they sold separate media rights deals to the streamers like Apple and Roku, which are worth a fraction of what they're getting from the Entertainment and Sports Network, so thus devaluing with inflation the deal that was signed. And so despite the changing landscape, and I've experienced that the last couple of years with people cutting the cord and television in general, it's a much different world than when I grew up. So everything's changed, right? There's not as many people paying for television. It's not readily available. And so the numbers you can make go down, but Rob Manfred and the people of baseball, they were unwilling to work with Bally sports people. They are unwilling to negotiate a lower deal with the people in Connecticut. And so now they're going to find themselves having to scramble. We'll see how much money they get. I would be stunned if they get anywhere close to $550 million per year. Now, I realize that Amazon's got money to burn and Netflix and all these different places, but that's a ton of dough when you look at the numbers and who's actually watching these games. Now, secondly, we go to Toronto, where the baseball is bad, but the drama is somewhat good here. Blue Jays star Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he made some headlines, went viral. Now, why did he go viral? Because he clicked the like button on the gram. He liked an Instagram photo of himself in a New York Yankee road uniform. So Vladdy Guerrero randomly liking a Photoshop of him in the Yankee laundry. What is that all about? So this is a business decision. That is my answer. Business decision. Vladdy famously said a couple years back that he would never sign with the Yankees, not even dead. Of course, no one's signing with the Yankees when they're dead because you're dead. You can't sign when you're dead. You're dead. Dead doesn't sign. That dead votes, and we learned this week that dead also collects Social Security, but you can't sign anything. So what changed? So Vladdy Guerrero told reporters this week that he and the Jays, remember we talked about this the other day, they didn't reach an agreement. He made an artificial self-imposed deadline, spring training, no deal was done, so that means he's going to hit the market in 2025 after the World Series. So that makes this part of the story, the clicking of the like button on the Yankee uniform, it makes it an artificial sweetener is what it makes it. Like he's fanning the flames to artificially sweeten the market. And you want a bidding war. And Vladdy Guerrero needs the Yankees to drive up the price with the Mets and the Dodgers and the Red Sox. And I had this explained to me years ago. And they're like, well, if you're a big ticket item in baseball, even if you hate New York and everything New York's about and you just can't handle the volume of people that are in Manhattan and in that area in general, you have to play the game of pretending that you like it to get them to bid. And there's a famous story of a guy for the Red Sox who hated playing in Boston, didn't like Fenway Park, but they offered him a ton of money, so he signed the contract, and he just kind of bit his tongue and did his time and made his money, and then that's it. All right, now meanwhile, speaking of the Yankees, as we were, Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone was given a contract extension. I saw Big Greg in Iowa wanted some hot takes on this. Yankees signing Aaron Boone to a 2-year extension. So what is Aaron Boone's secret? He said, well, they're in the World Series, but they haven't won the World Series. They were in the World Series, and I would say one of the most embarrassing moments in Yankee history in my lifetime was in Game 5 of the World Series when it looked like the Yankees were a Little League team. That was a poorly coached baseball team by Aaron Boone. And you're rewarding Aaron Boone with another contract extension. So there's a couple things that Aaron Boone has going for him. The biggest one is he follows directions. He's also a smooth talker with the media, and that's important. However, the biggest thing is that Aaron Boone, it's like he's a puppet, a sock puppet, and he just does whatever Brian Cashman and his army of nerds tell him to do. He's got his little 3-ring binder, and that's it. He just follows along. All right, now, final thought. To the Bay Area we go. The Bay Area, that is where Giants starter and former cheating ass, 1-1000, 2-1000 hole, Justin Verlander. Verlander is now in the Bay Area. He's, I believe, 42 years young. and about as old as Methuselah. So Justin Verlander publicly calling for a rule change in Major League Baseball. Verlander, who has a shot if he pitches till he's 50 to win 500 games. I think he's at 462, but he'd have to pitch at least 3 more years to get to 500 and stay somewhat healthy. But anyway, Verlander's calling for a rule change in Major League Baseball that would force starting pitchers to pitch longer into games and decrease the increased reliance on bullpens. Verlander said, quote, he told Bob Nightingale, I think there needs to be rules put in place. The now Gigante pitcher said it's the only way that you can put the genie back in the bottle. Yeah, you want to have some marquee pitchers who last more than 5 years. You're going to have to change the rules. You got to make the teams adjust. It's going to get worse. Close quote. All right, so question for the esteemed panel. Justin Verlander, he wants Major League Baseball to put rules in to save starting pitching. Is there a chance of that happening? So there are 2 chances of that happening. There's slim and none, and if you look over at the JetBlue counter at the airport there, Slim's waiting on standby to say bye-bye, and here's why. The most important thing is there's no financial incentive. By devaluing starting pitching, you keep pitching salaries artificially down, and that's good for the business of baseball. You don't have to pay that front line, above the marquee starting pitcher big-time money, which is important. There's something else going on here. Like, what would the rule be like? A number of people have said that, and this is from what I've heard, the scuttlebutt is, if you were to put a rule in, it would be the starting pitcher has to go at least 5 innings. And if your starting pitcher comes out prior to that, you lose access to the designated hitter. So if you had Aaron Judge as your designated hitter, and let's say he was DHing that day, and then the Yankee pitcher Garrett Cole went like 3 2/3 innings or something like that, and you took Cole out, Judge would have to come out of the game. Now, the counter argument is, well, people pay money to watch Aaron Judge. They don't pay money to watch a pitcher hit. And then if pitchers start hitting, it becomes a problem. And then the counter to that is, well, pitchers would never actually hit. You just have to run through your pinch hitters. And you'd have to move players around and all that. And the other thing, too, to remember is that the people who have a chokehold on the game, outside of the ownership class, they all reside from the same little village. It's Dorksville, USA. And these are the people responsible for bastardizing starting pitching in baseball. And it's all analytics, and because you can always say anything goes wrong in baseball. In the old days, if you made a decision based on a gut feel and it didn't work out, you would be called out. Oh, my God, this is the worst thing. If you make a decision in modern baseball and it doesn't work out, there were these idiots that will sympathize with you. So, well, they followed the analytics. They did the right thing, right? And analytics tells you what has happened, not what's going to happen, and it discounts the human element to arrive at a decision. And that's a big part of the problem with the arithmetic. It is the